Good morning from Santa Cruz Catholic Church in Tucson. I'm Father Stephen, the pastor, and today is the 19th of January. And I want to read the apostolic letter, part of it, of Pope Francis, wherein he promulgates the year of Saint Joseph, because we propose to do something special on the 19th of every month and also on the Wednesday of every week. It so happens that this week, Wednesday follows the 19th, so tomorrow I hope to post something, a little reflection on St. Joseph. But I thought it would be a good idea to begin with the Pope's letter so we understand why we're doing what we're doing. The title of the apostolic letter is Patriarch CORDE, which means the heart of a father, the heart of a father. And it's written on the occasion of the 150th anniversary of the proclamation of Saint Joseph as the patron of the Universal Church. And this is how the letter goes. I'm just going to read the first part of it. With a father's heart, that is how Joseph loved Jesus, whom all four Gospels refer to as the son of Joseph. That's a beautiful beginning, isn't it? With a father's heart, that's how Joseph loved Jesus. Matthew and Luke, the two evangelists who speak most of Joseph, tell us very little, yet enough for us to appreciate what sort of father he was and the mission entrusted to him by God's providence. We know that Joseph was a lowly carpenter, betrothed to Mary. He was a just man, ever ready to carry out God's will as revealed to him in the law and through four dreams. After a long and tiring journey from Nazareth to Bethlehem, he beheld the birth of the Messiah in a stable, since there was no place for them elsewhere. He witnessed the adoration of the shepherds and the Magi, who represented respectively the people of Israel and the pagan peoples. Joseph had the courage to become the legal father of Jesus, to whom he gave the name revealed by the angel. You shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins, as we read in the Gospel of Matthew. As we know, for ancient peoples, to give a name to a person or to a thing, as Adam did in the account of the book of Genesis, was to establish a relationship. In the temple, 40 days after Jesus' birth, Joseph and Mary offered their child to the Lord and listened with amazement to Simeon's prophecy concerning Jesus and his mother. To protect Jesus from Herod, Joseph dwelt as a foreigner in Egypt. After returning to his own country, he led a hidden life in the tiny and obscure village of Nazareth in Galilee, far from Bethlehem in his ancestral town, and from Jerusalem and the temple. Of Nazareth, it was said, no prophet is to rise, and indeed, can anything good come out of Nazareth? When, during a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, Joseph and Mary lost track of the 12-year-old Jesus, they anxiously sought him out, and they found him in the temple in discussion with the doctors of the law. After Mary, the Mother of God, no saint is mentioned more frequently in the papal magisterium than Joseph, her spouse. My predecessors reflected on the message contained in the limited information handed down by the Gospels in order to appreciate more fully his central role in the history of salvation. Blessed Pius IX declared him patron of the Catholic Church. Venerable Pius XII proposed him as patron of workers, and St. John Paul II as guardian of the Redeemer. St. Joseph is universally invoked as the patron of a happy death. Now, 150 years after the proclamation as patron of the Catholic Church by Blessed Pius IX on December 8, 1870, I would like to share some personal reflections on this extraordinary figure, so close to our own experience. For as Jesus says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. My desire to do so increased during these months of pandemic, when we experienced, amid the crisis, how our lives are woven together and sustained by ordinary people, people often overlooked, people who do not appear in newspaper or magazine headlines or on the last television show, yet in these very days are surely shaping the decisive events of our history. Doctors, nurses, storekeepers, and supermarket workers, cleaning personnel, caregivers, transport workers, men and women working to provide essential services and public safety, volunteers, priests, men and women religious, and so very many others. They understood that no one is saved alone. How many people daily exercise patience and offer hope, taking care to spread not panic, but shared responsibility? How many fathers, mothers, grandparents, and teachers are showing our children in small, everyday ways how to accept and deal with a crisis by adjusting their routines, looking ahead and encouraging the practice of prayer? How many are praying, making sacrifices, and interceding for the good of all? Each of us can discover in Joseph the man who goes unnoticed, a daily, discreet, and hidden presence. An intercessor, a support and a guide in times of trouble. St. Joseph reminds us that those who appear hidden or in the shadows can play an incomparable role in the history of salvation. A word of recognition and of gratitude is due to them all. The greatness of St. Joseph is that he was a spouse of Mary and the father of Jesus. In this way, he placed himself, in the words of St. John Chrysostom, at the service of the entire plan of salvation. St. Paul VI pointed out that Joseph concretely expressed his fatherhood by making his life a sacrificial service to the mystery of the Incarnation and his redemptive purpose. He employed his legal authority over the Holy Family to devote himself completely to them in his life and work. He turned his human vocation to domestic love into a superhuman oblation of himself, his heart and all his abilities, a love placed at the service of the Messiah who was growing to maturity in his home. I'm coming to the end now, so just another minute, no more, and I will conclude this first reflection. Thanks to his role in salvation history, St. Joseph has always been venerated as a father by the Christian people. This is shown by the countless churches dedicated to him worldwide, the numerous religious institutes, confraternities, and ecclesial groups inspired by his spirituality and bearing his name, and the many traditional expressions of piety in his honor. Innumerable holy men and women were passionately devoted to him. Among them was Teresa of Avila, who chose him as her advocate and intercessor, had frequent recourse to him, and received whatever graces she asked of him. Encouraged by her own experience, Teresa persuaded others to cultivate devotion to Joseph. Of course, Teresa of Avila is the one we call Holy Mother because she's the foundress of the Discalced Carmelite Order. Her statue is in this church. And so I feel that we Carmelites have a special obligation to participate in this year, Joseph, and to promote devotion to him. And finally, every prayer book contains prayers to St. Joseph. Special prayers are offered to him each Wednesday, and especially during the month of March, which is traditionally dedicated to him. I'm going to stop there, and there you have it. Every Wednesday is going to be a special day to remember St. Joseph, and we're going to add every 19th of the month, and of course the 19th of March is the biggie, so we do hope to do something big in our church. Now, there was a footnote to the reference to this last statement that I read, and this is what the footnote says. This is Pope Francis, and this is my conclusion because it's a prayer. He says, every day for over 40 years following Lauds, that is morning prayer, I, Francis, have recited a prayer to St. Joseph taken from a 19th century French prayer book of the Congregation of the Sisters of Jesus and Mary. It expresses devotion and trust and even poses a certain challenge to Joseph. And here's the prayer, and I'll conclude today with this prayer. Glorious Patriarch Saint Joseph, whose power makes the impossible possible, come to my aid in these times of anguish and difficulty. Take under your protection the serious and troubling situations that I commend to you, that they may have a happy outcome. My beloved Father, all my trust is in you. Let it not be said that I invoke you in vain. And since you can do everything with Jesus and Mary, show me that your goodness is as great as your power. Amen.